Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for To Your Eternity, chapter 156.2. So yeah, it seems like after the whole clusterfuck that was 155's numbering, Crunchyroll has jumped onto the Amazon system of just doing .2.3 for part 2s and part 3s. But anyway, when we last left our heroes, Yuki, in a show of faith with the knockers, drinks the water, almost certainly going to die, and then get resurrected by Sadaru and Fushi. But he drinks the water and reveals that as he runs off to his grandpa's house with the guardian knocker, he reveals that he is well aware that's not Mizuha, that is a knocker, but still offers a hand of peace. The guardian knocker does not take, and instead dashes back off into the sewers and grabs Fushi to do something with him. Or her, I think, at this point. But still, yeah, that's the thing. That's where we are. That's where we leave off. So with that said, let's dive right on in. Chapter 156, Part 2, Clean Water Part 2. We pick up right where we left off, with the Guardian Knocker just I think a fireman's carry Fushi through the sewers. As Fushi sort of sits there, I'm actually not sure what gender this original body was. But they watch the, Fushi sort of watching the, I guess it's the knocker's footsteps, I guess, through the sewer drain, I think. They finally make it back to what might be Knocker HQ. It's got the pillars of Knocker HQ, but I would not swear to this being Knocker HQ. And the knocker just, is on top of Fushi and says, "Let's do it, Fushi." Is she going to finally live out Hayase's dream and have a child with Fushi? And Fushi just asks her, "Do what?" Or no, maybe not, because the knocker goes on, "I always wanted to fight you at least once." And as she's doing this, she's extending her fingers, which I don't think we've seen someone under knocker possession do before. Normally they're kind of constrained by their bodies, right? Maybe the Guardian Knocker did this with Kahak right at the very end, but it's been a while, I wouldn't swear to that. I have a vague recollection of the Guardian Knocker extending to try to stop Kahak from throwing himself into the iron. But even then, that was big, entire arm moving. There's something, so specific, so tiny about the fingers thing she's doing with Fushi here, that sort of, it brings to mind the fact that the knockers are much smaller, physically, in the new era. I don't know, it's an interesting thing. I've always wanted to fight you at least once, and find out who's stronger. And Fushi then just disappears through a rope, and I'm not sure, I don't quite remember whose body this is that Fushi's in. But she tells her, "I think you'll only end up back in your paradise." Which, that's a baller line there, Fushi. And the Guardian Knocker looks up, all excited for a fight. And she extends her fingers in much more attack form at Fushi. Fushi turns into, is this Mia? I think this is Mia. It's Tonari's redhead friend, whose name I always forget. I think this is Mia, though. Yes, this is Mia. Who's able to block all of the Guardian Knocker's attacks with this, chair-looking thing. And she just sort of, slams it down. And, it's, right, of course, it's something that Fushi spawned. And the chair, or not really a chair, a stool maybe, disappears. As does Fushi, I think. Oh, no. From that, Fushi spawns so while, I think what's going on here is that while the Guardian Knocker's finger tendrils are wrapped around the chair stool thing, she turns it into a tree. And now I think maybe the Guardian Knocker is bound to the tree somehow. And yeah, she's trying to pull away from the tree, but she can't. We see she's struggling, her veins are showing, and Fushi mocks, "Have you given up on your plans?" And the Guardian Knocker just kind of looks at her. And she just pulls, tears her skin. Fushi feels the pain there, as the Guardian Knocker breaks free. And Fushi just stares at her. as the guardian knocker then says, "If you beat me, I'll think about it." And Fushi just tells her, "All right, we can fight. I'll finish this before the sun sets." And Mizuha the guardian knocker just has her hands are fine again. And she lunges at Fushi. Fushi, materializes this root to whip up at the guardian knocker, and it spawns this giant wall that the knocker just jumps over, and Fushi spawns a whole bunch of walls that the guardian knocker is just bouncing between. Are they supposed to hinder me? You're too slow. And then Fushi builds up this wall, this room, 4 walls around. Oh no, and a roof too. I think the roof is a new Fushi creation. But the guardian knocker just pummels through it, and we see Fushi readying a bow and arrow. As I'm not sure who this is. It looks similar to the person Fushi was at the start of this fight, but in much more soldier gear. It's someone from Renril, and Renril's is not the arc I ever really remember much of. But she fires this sort of tiny little bullet arrow. Or no, maybe it's just the angle there makes the arrow look a lot smaller or something. Because when the guardian knocker grabs it, it looks like a full-size arrow. And then the guardian knocker slams into Fushi. Okay, so some kind of exploding arrow, because the guardian knocker stands there, this really cool panel as the water falls around her. And she looks at her hand. The gunpowder is damp. And we see Fushi as Upa, I think was her name, right? The little girl from Jananda, about to throw or having just thrown, maybe, a blow dart at Mizuha, or the guardian knocker. And that's what we leave off. That's the cliffhanger. Okay. It's sort of an interesting chapter this week, because while the stuff at the school with Tonari and the girls has sort of been very much sort of an action thriller, the Fushi and Mizuha and guardian knocker plot hasn't really been. I'd argue really since the New World, Fushi and the whole Fushi Mizuha guardian knocker dynamic has really been a lot more philosophical. A lot more the three of them sort of arguing their viewpoints, and you can maybe argue this whole bit represents Fushi kind of giving up. There's no more reasoning with the knocker. At a certain point, they're just going to have to kill it. The knocker needs to die if it's not the ideal plan, but if there's no other way to stop her from killing as many people as possible, then you gotta, kill the one, kill just the knocker, as opposed to letting everyone else die. So it's an interesting thing, how it's much less, this is no longer the sort of storyline where Fushi wonders if suicide is good. Which, thankfully, that was always a really weird bit. To Your Eternity did. But, it's... I'm not trying to be negative against it, because I think it's a really, really good, really tense bit of action here. But after so much of, talking it through, the fact this is all boiling down to a fight, it's interesting. I'm curious if, Oima will actually have the fight be what ends this whole storyline. Especially because the Yuki scene in the last chapter very much seemed to be steering away from that as a concept. Saying that, we're going to work this out peacefully, sort of thing. As opposed to this, which is very, we just have to fight it out. So we'll see next week where exactly Oima's going with this. All in all, though, from looking at the actual fight, it's a lot of fun. I really like the tree plan Fushi has here. I think it's a really neat idea. Not one I've ever really thought of before as something they could use. And then, it seems to be a bit of a bait and switch with this plan at the end. Two decoy moves with the building that she builds around Mizuha there, and then the arrow that she fires. I'm not quite sure what the gunpowder being damp, how that helps Fushi here. unless it's like maybe, you know, Fushi doesn't want to get blown up here. Oh wait, with a blow dart, it might just be a tranquilizer dart. If Fushi really in the end does not want to hurt the knocker, it's sort of going on with the fight, because that's the only way she can really talk to the knocker, but not wanting to kill it. You know, Fushi's just gonna tranquilize her and deal with this a bit more peacefully. That would actually work. That would sort of be the plan that makes all these disparate pieces click into place. So in the end, that's what my money's on. But for now, all we can really do is wait till next week to see what all comes of this. So all in all, really fun chapter, some good fighting, and you know, a hint of something more going on behind the scenes. So with that said, I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you'll enjoy the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe, or, you know, do whatever makes you happy, you know? And as always, your life is your own, okay? Bye!